I've been driving trucks across the United States long enough to know one hard truth. The road doesn't care about you. Doesn't care if you're tired. Doesn't care if you're hurt. And it definitely doesn't care if you're afraid. I used to believe that breakdowns were just mechanical problems. Bad luck, worn parts, random chance. After what happened to me, I don't believe that anymore. Some breakdowns feel chosen, as if the road itself decides where you're allowed to stop. Before I begin, do me one small favor. If you enjoy true-style horror stories like this, like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel right now. And while you listen, comment below. Which city or country are you watching from? And what time is it there? Your support decides whether stories like this continue. This is one of those stories. I'm writing this because people deserve a warning. Not every light you see in the distance means safety. Not every door that opens should be walked through. And sometimes, staying inside a broken truck is the last sane choice you'll ever make. But I didn't know that then. I never planned to be a truck driver. It just happened. A temporary job that turned into a decade. Long highways, short conversations, and the kind of solitude that slowly changes the way you think. You stop measuring time in days and start measuring it in exits, fuel stops, and delivery windows. That morning started clean and easy. Blue sky, open fields, the kind of drive that lets your mind drift without worry. I had already dropped my load, which meant no pressure and no deadline breathing down my neck. Just miles of rural roadway stretching ahead like a promise. I remember rolling the window down and letting the air hit my face, warm and calm. Crops filled the land on both sides, rows so perfect they looked unnatural. No houses, no stores, just land doing what land has always done. That should have been my first clue. The road felt empty in a way I couldn't explain. Not peaceful. Vacant. As if something had been erased. I was thinking about nothing important when the truck lurched. Not a slow warning. Not a gentle vibration. A violent jolt. The steering wheel ripped sideways, and suddenly I wasn't driving anymore. I was fighting. Tires screamed against asphalt as the truck lost its argument with gravity. My body moved on instinct, arms locking tight, jaw clenched hard enough to ache. The world tilted. The truck skidded, leaned, then lifted. There's a moment during an accident where everything stretches. Sound dulls. Motion slows. Your brain starts filing memories you haven't finished living yet. Then the truck came down. Hard. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. My body slammed against restraints that were never designed for mercy. The force tossed everything inside the cab into chaos. Objects turning into weapons, striking wherever they landed. And then, silence. The engine coughed once before dying. I stayed still for a long moment, waiting to feel pain. When it came, it was manageable. Sharp bruises, stiff joints, the kind of hurt that lets you know you survived. I whispered a thank you to nobody in particular and unbuckled myself carefully. Outside, the truck looked wrong, twisted, bent, like it had landed in a way trucks weren't meant to. Fluids dripped beneath it, pooling together in colors I didn't want to identify. I didn't stay close. I gathered what I could from the cab and moved down the road, sitting in the grass with my back to the fields. That's when I checked my phone. The screen was shattered beyond hope. No signal. No power. No lifeline. Out there, silence has weight. You can feel it press against your ears. I looked both directions down the road and realized something unsettling. I hadn't seen another vehicle in a long time. This wasn't a place people passed through. It was a place they avoided without knowing why. I had two options: wait by the truck and hope someone came before night fell, or walk. I chose to walk. The road stretched on longer than it should have. Each step loosened the stiffness in my body, but tightened something else in my chest. It felt like I was walking away from help instead of toward it. Then I saw it. A house. It didn't rise into view naturally. It appeared all at once, like it had been waiting just beyond the limit of my patience. Old wood, sagging structure, a long dirt drive cutting through the land like a scar. I slowed instinctively. There was a sign nailed to a tree near the driveway, weathered, crooked, and unmistakable. The kind of warning people put up when they don't want to explain themselves. I considered turning back. That's when the tractor came into view. It rolled toward me from the far side of the property, slow and deliberate. The man driving it didn't wave, didn't acknowledge me until he was close enough that I could see his face clearly. He was big, built from years of labor rather than intention. His eyes stayed on me in a way that didn't feel curious. It felt evaluative, like I was livestock wandering where it shouldn't. I explained my situation carefully, chose my words the way you do when you don't know the rules yet. He listened without reacting. Then he shut the tractor down and told me to follow him. That was it. No reassurance, no welcome, just instruction. I followed because saying no felt like the wrong answer. The house was worse up close, older than it looked from the road, but maintained with unsettling precision. No clutter, no decay beyond what time had chosen to show. The front door opened, and a woman appeared, her posture folded inward, like she expected to be corrected at any moment. She didn't meet my eyes. Inside, the air felt different, clean, preserved, the kind of cleanliness that doesn't come from comfort, but from discipline. Family portraits lined the walls, each one free of dust, every frame straight. The phone hung on the wall in the kitchen. It didn't work, neither did the explanation. Their answers slid around my questions instead of meeting them. A storm I hadn't seen. Lines they claimed were shared with neighbors miles away. Excuses delivered softly, as if rehearsed. I thanked them and said I'd try elsewhere. That's when the man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. He suggested I stay for a while. Rest. Try again later. I didn't want to. Every instinct told me to leave. But instincts are quiet things, and fear of offending someone bigger than you can drown them out. So I stayed. When the invitation to eat came, it didn't sound optional. Refusing felt like accusing them of something I couldn't name. The food smelled incredible, comforting in a way that lowered my guard before I realized it was happening. I ate. I laughed awkwardly. I told myself I was overreacting. And when night came, they insisted I stay. The room they gave me was immaculate, too perfect, like it existed solely to be unused. I sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the house settle, telling myself that morning would solve everything. But sleep didn't come easily. Something about that place felt staged, like I had wandered into a scene already in progress. Like I wasn't the first person to sit where I was sitting, and I wouldn't be the last. As I lay there staring into the darkness, I understood something too late. The road hadn't broken my truck by accident. It had delivered me. I didn't sleep. Not the real kind. Just the kind where your eyes close but your mind keeps driving. Every time I drifted, I was back on that dirt road, watching the farmhouse lights pulse like a living thing. breathing in slow, uneven patterns. When morning finally leaked through the windshield, it didn't feel like relief. It felt like permission for something to continue. The truck started on the first turn of the key. That should have been my sign to leave immediately and never look back. Instead, I sat there with both hands on the wheel, staring at the fog hovering low over the fields, thinking about the woman's voice, thinking about the way she said, "watchful." I pulled onto the road heading east, following the route my GPS insisted was correct. According to the screen, I was back on a state highway within minutes. According to my eyes, I wasn't. The road stretched straight ahead, narrow and cracked, bordered by fields that felt too wide for how close they seemed. Fence posts leaned inward, like they were tired of standing. No mile markers, no power lines, no road signs, just asphalt and silence. The radio crackled on its own. Not music, not voices, just a low hum like feedback struggling to find a frequency. I reached to shut it off. The hum stopped the moment my fingers touched the dial. That was when I noticed something in my side mirror, a shape on the road behind me. Far back, too far to be clear, but darker than the pavement, taller than a deer, moving without urgency, like it already knew I wasn't getting away. I told myself it was a trick of the fog. Then it took a step forward. I pressed the accelerator. The engine responded, but the scenery didn't change the way it should have. The field stayed beside me, matching my speed. The road ahead never narrowed or widened. It just continued. That's when the GPS rerouted. The screen blinked once, then redrew the map entirely. The highway vanished. In its place was a thin gray line looping backward, curving into an area marked with no name. At the center of the loop was a small square, a structure icon, the farmhouse. "No," I said out loud, my voice sounding thin in the cab. "That's not possible." The GPS chimed softly, like it was pleased. I shut it off. The engine sputtered. Not stalled, just hesitant. I didn't slow down. I couldn't. The shape in the mirror had closed the distance without moving faster. It was closer now, close enough that I could see it wasn't solid. It looked unfinished, like someone had tried to assemble a person from memory and forgotten certain parts. The outline wavered, the center looked hollow, and it was smiling. I took the next turn without signaling, jerking the wheel hard to the right. The truck fish-tailed but stayed upright. The road narrowed even more, gravel popping beneath the tires. Trees crowded in. This road wasn't on any map. I knew that in my bones. It bent at impossible angles, doubling back on itself without actually turning. The woods pressed so close the branches scraped the trailer sides, leaving long, dragging sounds that made my teeth hurt. Then, lights. Ahead. Warm. Steady. The farmhouse. I slammed the brakes. The truck skidded, coming to rest sideways across the road. The engine died on its own, like it had decided this was as far as it was willing to go. I sat there, breathing hard, listening. No footsteps. No wind. Just the soft, distant sound of humming. It came from everywhere. The farmhouse door was open. I hadn't parked near it this time. I hadn't even stopped in the same place. But there it was, waiting at the end of the road, exactly where it needed to be. I grabbed my flashlight, not because I thought it would help, but because holding nothing felt worse. The moment my boots hit the ground, the humming stopped. The air felt heavier, like the pressure before a storm. Every step toward the house felt measured, watched. I could feel eyes on my back, though when I turned, there was nothing behind me. Inside the farmhouse, the smell was different, less rot, more earth, like freshly turned soil. The kitchen table was set. 4 plates, 4 cups, all clean. The woman from before stood near the sink, her back to me. Her hair was pulled tight, her shoulders tense, like she'd been waiting too long. "You came back," she said. "I didn't mean to," I replied honestly. She turned slowly. Her eyes were wrong, not in a dramatic way, not glowing or hollow, just tired, ancient, like she'd been awake for generations and forgotten how to rest. "They always say that," she said. "Sit. You'll want to hear this standing, but you'll need to sit." I stayed where I was. "Where's your family?" I asked. Her lips pressed together. "Finished," she said. The word landed heavy. She gestured toward the hallway. "They're still here. Just not like you'd understand." The humming returned, faint but present, vibrating through the floorboards. The plates on the table rattled slightly. "What is this place?" I asked. She met my gaze. "A marker." "For what?" "For the road." She explained it slowly, like she was talking to someone who might break if pushed too hard. Long before highways, before trucks and shipping lanes, people traveled differently. They believed roads weren't just paths, but promises. Agreements between the traveler and whatever waited at the destination. Most promises were small, some weren't. This stretch of land sat at a crossing point, not a physical one, a spiritual one. Travelers passed through unknowingly, carrying their intentions, their desperation, their secrets. Over time, something began to listen. It fed on people who were already halfway gone, people running from something, people too tired to fight back. Truckers were perfect, always moving, always alone, always believing the road would take them somewhere else. They didn't worship it, she said, at first. They just accommodated it. Her family had been caretakers, keeping the marker intact, feeding it just enough to keep it from spreading. "How do you feed a road?" I asked. Her eyes dropped to the floor. "By making sure it remembers you." The humming grew louder. From the walls, from beneath the floor, from inside my chest. "You're lying," I said, though the words felt weak. "I wish I were," she replied. "But you saw it, didn't you? The thing behind you. That's what happens when someone leaves without being remembered properly." My mouth went dry. "What does that mean?" "It means it follows," she said, "until it finishes learning you." A door creaked open down the hall. Something shifted in the shadows. I took a step back. Her voice sharpened. "If you leave now, it won't stop. It'll ride with you. Not in the cab, in the spaces between thoughts, in every empty mile." I pictured the endless road, the shape in the mirror, the way the GPS had bent itself around the farmhouse. "What do you want from me?" I asked. She swallowed. "I want you to take my place." The words hung between us. "My family tried to end it," she continued. "They thought starving it would kill it. Instead, it got creative." The lights flickered. Something banged softly beneath the floor, like a fist testing wood. "I'm done," she said quietly. "But it won't let me leave without a replacement." I shook my head. "I won't stay here." She didn't argue. She just said, "Then it'll make you." The floorboards vibrated. The humming became a rhythm. Slow, deliberate, a heartbeat. I backed toward the door. She didn't stop me. Outside, the road was gone. Not hidden, not obscured. Gone. In its place was open ground, stretching endlessly, marked only by faint tire tracks that led back toward the farmhouse. The shape from before stood at the edge of the clearing, closer now, more defined, wearing something that looked disturbingly like my jacket, I ran. Not toward the truck, but around the house, heart pounding, lungs burning. The land shifted beneath my feet, softening, pulling. Every direction felt wrong. The humming followed. Inside my head, inside my thoughts. You are already on the road, it seemed to say. You just don't know where it ends. I reached the truck and climbed inside, slamming the door shut. The engine didn't respond. The dashboard lights flickered, then stabilized. The GPS turned itself back on. A new route appeared. Destination. Unrecorded distance. Ongoing. I sat there, shaking, as the farmhouse lights dimmed behind me. The woman stood on the porch, watching. Not pleading. Not warning. Just counting. The engine finally turned over. As I pulled forward, the road reformed ahead of me. Thin, cracked, and eager. And somewhere deep beneath the pavement, something learned my name. The road didn't feel solid anymore. That was the first thing I noticed, once I'd been driving long enough for panic to dull into something heavier. The tires rolled, the engine pulled, but the pavement felt thin, like a skin stretched too tight over something that moved underneath. Every mile marker I passed was blank, just metal posts, no numbers, no distance. The sky stayed the same dull gray no matter how long I drove. Not dawn, not dusk, a permanent in-between, like time had stalled out of habit. I checked the mirrors constantly, not because I expected to see the farmhouse again, but because I didn't trust the empty spaces anymore. The shape didn't follow right away. That was worse. When it finally appeared, it wasn't behind me. It was beside me. Not on the road, not in the fields. Just there, pacing the truck at the same speed, its outline flickering in and out of existence like a bad signal. Sometimes it had arms, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes its face looked smooth and unfinished, like wet clay left in the rain. It never looked directly at me. It didn't have to. I knew it was aware. My chest tightened. I tried to convince myself this was exhaustion, stress, adrenaline hangover, anything with a medical explanation. But every time I blinked, it stayed. When I closed my eyes, it got closer. I pulled off onto what looked like a rest area. The sign was there. The exit ramp was there. But the lot itself was wrong. Too small, like a model version of a real place. 2 parking spaces, no building, no lights. Just a vending machine humming softly at the far edge. I parked and shut the engine off. The silence pressed in immediately. I stayed in the cab, breathing slow, hands locked around the steering wheel until my fingers went numb. The shape stood at the edge of the lot now, watching the truck like a curious animal. It lifted its head slightly and spoke, not out loud, inside my thoughts. "You are difficult to remember," it said. The voice wasn't male or female. It sounded like pressure, like words formed by pushing against something too small. "Leave me alone," I whispered. "You don't belong to any place," it replied. "That makes you useful." The words hit deeper than fear. They felt accurate. I thought about my life before the road, the jobs that didn't stick, the relationships that faded without a clean ending, the way it always felt temporary, even when I tried to settle. "You're wrong," I said, louder now. "I belong to myself." The shape tilted its head. "That is not how roads work." The vending machine clicked loudly. A can dropped. I flinched hard enough to hit my elbow on the door. When I looked back, the shape was closer. Close enough that I could see details I didn't want to understand. Patches of texture that looked like skin but weren't attached correctly. A suggestion of eyes that never focused. I started the engine. It roared to life instantly, like it had been waiting for permission. The shape didn't chase. It melted into the space behind me, seeping into the blind spots, into the angles where mirrors didn't quite reach. I drove for what felt like hours. The radio came on again. This time, voices. Low, layered, overlapping. Not words, names. Some spoken with anger, some with relief, some with resignation. I recognized one of them. Mine. I slammed the radio off, heart hammering so hard it hurt. That was when I realized the GPS wasn't counting distance anymore. The number next to ongoing hadn't changed. Not forward, not backward. Just there. I pulled out my phone. No signal. But there were photos in my gallery I didn't remember taking. Pictures of roads I didn't recall driving. Parking lots I didn't remember stopping at. Rest areas I'd never seen. And in every single one, barely visible, always off to the side, was the shape. Sometimes closer. Sometimes clearer. Always learning. The phone vibrated in my hand. A notification appeared. Remembering in progress. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat like it had burned me. "You can't have me," I said out loud. "I won't let you." The road ahead began to slope downward. Not steeply, gently, like a suggestion. The fields gave way to buildings. Low, worn structures arranged without logic. Old motels with no signs. Gas stations with pumps, but no store. Places meant for stopping. Stripped of purpose. The truck slowed on its own. I fought the wheel, but it was like pushing against a tide. The shape reappeared ahead of me now, standing in the center of the road. I didn't brake. I didn't swerve. I drove straight through it. For a split second, the cab filled with cold, sharp, invasive, like inhaling winter. The lights flickered. My ears rang. Then it was gone. I laughed, a sharp, hysterical sound that didn't feel connected to joy. "See?" I said to the empty road. "You're not real." The laughter died quickly, because the cold didn't leave. It settled, deep, like something had found a place to sit. I started noticing gaps, moments where I couldn't account for time. Miles I didn't remember driving, turns I couldn't recall taking. Once I caught myself speaking, answering questions I hadn't consciously heard. Another time, I saw my reflection in the windshield and didn't recognize the expression staring back. Not fear, not panic, focus, like I was listening to instructions. I pulled over again when I saw a familiar logo ahead, a real gas station, bright lights, other vehicles, people. Relief hit me so hard I nearly cried. I parked crookedly and got out, legs shaking. The air smelled normal. Fuel, oil, stale coffee. The sounds were right too. Engines, voices, a radio playing something forgettable. I walked inside. The clerk barely glanced up. "Restrooms in the back," he muttered. I didn't ask. I stood there, just inside the door, grounding myself in the normalcy. Counting details. Reed cooler, yellow caution sign, cracked tile floor. "You look like hell." I turned. A man stood near the coffee station, older than me, wearing a jacket with a trucking company logo I didn't recognize. His eyes lingered on my face too long. "You ever get the feeling," he said carefully, "that the road doesn't want you to stop?" My stomach dropped. "What did you say?" I asked. He hesitated, then sighed. "Never mind. Forget I said anything." "No," I said quickly. "Please, tell me." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded toward the window. "Does it follow you yet?" he asked. The shape appeared in the reflection of the glass. Standing right behind me, I spun around. Nothing there. When I looked back at the man, his face had gone pale. "You see it too," he whispered. "What is it?" I demanded. He shook his head. "Doesn't matter. It's not what you think. It's not hunting you." "Then what?" "It's measuring," he said. "Seeing how much of you fits." He told me he'd been on the road longer than he could remember, that once, a long time ago, he'd stopped at a place that wasn't on any map, a place that asked him to stay. I said no, he continued. Thought that was the end of it. It wasn't, I said. He gave a sad smile. No, it never is. I asked him how to make it stop. He shook his head again. You don't. You just decide how much you give. The words felt heavy. How much have you given? I asked. He didn't answer. The lights flickered. The clerk looked up, confused. You talking to yourself, man? I turned. The other trucker was gone. No door sound. No movement. Just gone. The clerk frowned at me. You need something or not? I backed out of the store slowly. Outside, my truck sat alone. The shape waited near the rear trailer doors, its outline sharper than ever. It didn't speak. Didn't need to. I understood now. It wasn't trying to take me all at once. It was letting me choose. Every mile I drove, every memory I let blur, every time I stopped fighting. It took a little more. And the worst part? Somewhere along the road, I had already started letting it. I don't remember deciding to stop fighting. That's the part that still unsettles me the most. People like to believe there's a clear moment, an argument, a breakdown, a scream into the dark, where you either win or lose. But that's not how it happened. There was no surrender I could point to, no single choice I could rewind and correct. It was gradual, quiet, like drifting off without realizing you've closed your eyes. The road kept unfolding ahead of me, thin and obedient, bending just enough to feel natural. I drove through towns that looked assembled from memory rather than design, buildings arranged correctly but without intention. Every place felt like a suggestion of somewhere real, close enough to pass, too wrong to stay. I stopped checking the mirrors, not because I felt safe, but because I already knew what would be there. The shape didn't need to appear anymore. I could feel it the way you feel your own breathing without listening for it. A pressure behind thoughts, a presence settling into the spaces I used to occupy alone. When hunger hit, it didn't feel urgent. When fatigue crept in, it didn't feel dangerous. Everything softened, even fear. The truck ran smoother than it ever had. No rattles, no warning lights. It was like the machine understood what was happening and approved. At some point, though I can't say when, I noticed the names on the radio had stopped. There was only one voice now. Mine. Replayed back to me in pieces. Old conversations, half-finished sentences. Things I'd said without thinking, without meaning. The voice didn't mock me. It didn't threaten. It curated, selecting fragments, keeping what fit, discarding the rest. I pulled over at a turnout overlooking nothing in particular. No view, no landmark, just open ground and a sky that refused to change. I shut the engine off and sat there, hands resting loosely on my thighs, breathing slow. Is this it? I asked. The answer didn't come as words. It came as understanding. This wasn't punishment, wasn't hunger. It was continuity. The road needed people the way a river needs banks, not to consume them, but to define itself. Travelers gave it shape, purpose, direction. Those who belonged nowhere else were ideal, and I had always belonged nowhere. I stepped out of the truck. The ground felt solid again, real. Not thin or strained like before. The air smelled clean, ordinary. For the first time since the farmhouse, I felt something close to calm. I walked a short distance away and turned back. The truck looked different. Not damaged, not altered, just distant. like something I remembered owning rather than something that belonged to me now. The shape stood beside it, fully formed, not wearing my jacket anymore. Wearing me, not a copy, not a reflection, a version, one with smoother edges, fewer doubts, no resistance. I didn't feel fear seeing it like that. I felt relief. "So this is what you needed," I said. The understanding deepened. It needed a keeper. Someone to notice the forgotten stretches. Someone to guide the lost without letting them know they'd been guided. Someone who could feel when a traveler was ready, when they were hollow enough, tired enough, unanchored enough to hear the road calling back. The woman at the farmhouse hadn't been lying. She'd been failing. Her family had tried to control the road, starve it, bargain with it. That wasn't how it worked. The road didn't want devotion. It wanted recognition. I felt memories loosening, not tearing away, just unfastening. Moments losing their sharp edges, faces fading into impressions, names slipping out of reach. I held on to one thing as long as I could. My name. I won't write it here. Not because I've forgotten it, because the road remembers it now, and it doesn't need help. The shape stepped forward, then dissolved. Not into air, but into me. Or maybe I dissolved into it. The difference didn't matter. The boundary was never as solid as I thought. When I opened my eyes, the road stretched in all directions, not branching, waiting. I understood how to listen now, how to feel the subtle weight of travelers approaching long before they arrived, how to nudge a route just enough, how to dim a sign or brighten a light at the right moment. I wasn't trapped, I was placed. Sometimes, I watched trucks pass through without stopping, drivers focused, grounded, carrying something solid with them. The road lets them go easily. Other times, I feel the emptiness coming miles away. The ones who drive too long without calling home. The ones who don't remember why they started. The ones who feel most alive when they're moving and most lost when they stop. I don't force them. I don't chase them. I just make sure the road remembers them. You might think this is where I warn you. Tell you to avoid certain highways, certain turns, certain quiet places with no signs and too much space. But that wouldn't be honest. The road isn't malicious. It's patient. It's been here longer than any map, longer than any engine. It will be here after the last mile is driven. And if you're listening to this right now, really listening, then part of you already knows whether you belong to it or not. If you're still holding on to something solid, something that anchors you, you'll reach your destination just fine. If you're not, well, some roads don't lead away. They lead to, and they always arrive exactly where they mean to. Before you go, do me a small favor. If this story held you, even for a moment, like the video, share it and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And in the comments, tell me what city or country you're listening from, and what time it is for you right now. The road notices patterns, and it always appreciates being remembered.